Hello everyone, and welcome to this walkthrough session of the new SimMan 3G Plus. My colleague Carl Ruben Eriksson, who is the product manager of the SimMan 3G Plus and the rest of the SimMan family, will introduce you to several new functionalities and integrated solutions on this mannequin. He will also talk about a new network solution that we are offering. During this event, you will be able to ask questions using the Q&A function on the bottom of the screen. We will have specialists who will be able to answer most of your questions, most likely during the event, but other questions which might need a bit more looking into will be followed up later. So, over to you.
Thank you very much, Björn. So we're happy to announce and present our brand new addition in the Laerdal family. So this is SimMan 3G Plus. There's been a long story for the SimMan brothers, and over the years there's been incremental changes and sometimes bigger releases. This is a bigger release, and today I'll go through some of the new features and the new additions on SimMan 3G Plus. So as before, this is a multi-purpose mannequin. It has many of the similar capabilities, features, as you know and love from 3G. And what we think and hope is some new and delightful features. So we'll go through those. As before, SimMan 3G Plus is designed for immersive and realistic training. So part of the focus for this new mannequin is to prepare for and adhere to use of clinical equipment. And I'll go more detailed into that when we get to the individual features. So starting with the visual aspects, what you can see immediately is that there's a brand new face on SimMan 3G Plus. It's now made in a different type skin compared to the previous one. So the visual aspects and the details of the face is a lot more realistic and more lifelike. And it gives us a couple of other advantages when it comes to kind of the touch and feel and in general the visual part of it. It also adds flexibility so that the skin has a more natural movement. So another benefit of doing a new face like this is that we've added a possibility for you as a user to do a change of the face. So right now we have the 3 standard faces, and as you can see on this mannequin is the medium skin tone mannequin. We have obviously a light version of the mannequin, and there is a dark version of the mannequin with we think more nicer and more, let's say, more visual, beautiful aspects. Some of the other benefits of the new face is that you can see some of the details in the face where you before had the open ports for the fluid functions. Now you can barely see that there is any function or any opening at all. And Eivind, could you please turn on some fluids, some sweat, for instance. So now you can see in the forehead here, there's fluids coming out. And can you also turn on the tears? So you can see now tears forming. So we think this is it's a huge improvement compared to the previous solution. We're also planning down the line to release more faces to give you as a user more diversity into the mannequin. The first we will be releasing now in Q1 is a geriatric phase. And it will also come in the 3 previously mentioned skin tones. The other new aspect, which is not only visual, is that we now have new ears on the face skin. So it's possible now to attach a nasal cannula, and I'll demonstrate that. So you can see that the ears now have the possibility to attach the tube behind it, so that you can correctly place the cannula. So this was an issue with the previous version of 3G. In addition to that, there's some changes on the mouth part. So you can see that the mouth is not as wide as before, so it looks more natural, but it still gives you the same possibilities and ability to do airway management task, like for instance intubation, and I'll quickly show. So the inner airway of SimMan has the same features as before. So you can still see all the nice details, and by lifting the tongue, I can now see the vocal cords, and hopefully, yep, here we go. Good. So right now, for my convenience, I've added no issues to do this intubation. So as you can see, it was relatively easy. But we have plenty of possibilities to create a difficult airway. And as you can see on the LEAP screen, there are many choices where you can click on different aspects of the anatomy to inflate different types of bladders to create a advanced or less advanced airway. So a pretty good functionality there. Okay. Another aspect of the silicone skin is that the silicone gives better connectivity to the silicone part of the BVM. So by now it's more easy than before to get the proper seal around the mouth when you're doing bagging. So and you can also see chest rise, and that the mannequin is reacting to the inflations. Okay. So I think that sums up the face part. So over to the new arms. There's a brand new set of arms on SimMan 3G Plus with several improvements. All features, functions are bilateral, meaning that you can do any procedure on either side of the mannequin. Also, you can see there's added a lot of articulation on the arm. So compared to the previous one, which was stiff and not as articulate, this arm can now bend in the elbow. There's rotation in the overarm and in the shoulder joint. There's also flexibility in the wrists. So all in all, it allows for a much more natural, normal articulation of the arm. You can also use it with an automated compression machine, like for instance the Lucas device. So now you can attach the hands on top of the device and kind of do the proper procedure. So those are all great benefits. You can also see on the underside of the arm, there's a zipper all the way at the length of the arm. So that allows for easy operation of the arm if you need to change any of the parts, or for some reason it's to change the skin. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's a couple of new and improved features on the arm, and one of them is new pulses. We've created new types of pulses. They are, I would say, more correctly placed, so you can feel the pulse on the forearm, and there's also a brachial pulse added on the upper arm. And the pulse is now positioned such that if you kind of rotate the arm, the pulse will still continue to be in the correct location. So that's also an improvement compared to the previous arm. So in addition to that, we have improved and added some functionality on the IV. Okay, so I'll quickly go over to demonstrate the new IV function. And so it's better for the view, changing the angle slightly. So as you can see on the arm, so there is a pre-ported site for where you introduce the IV. But what's different now is that this is a port where you actually can use a real needle and insert into the arm and add fluids into the syringe, so you can hang up an IV drip. You can also see the area around the actual port is a bit more shiny now, and that's because I've added a patch on the silicone skin to allow for fastening tape. It's an issue to attach tape on silicone skin, and this is a solution to kind of counterfeit that. As you can see here, when you insert the needle, you will feel resistance when you get to the underlying silicone part here, and I need to push through that silicone part, and then I can draw back and continue the correct placement of the needle, and then attach with the correct tegaderm. So all in all, this allows for a better simulation because of the because you now need to kind of find the right equipment. You have to do the procedure, and it takes the needed time to fulfill the procedure. So while we're here, just wanted to show you there's a new convulsion in SimMan 3G, which has some improvements. So Eivind, could you please turn on the convulsions, please? So now you can see a more lifelike and natural movement of the arm. So thank you. Also on the new arms, there's a area for I/O and IM, a generous pad here where you can perform multiple injections with the IM. So the silicone skin is such that there will be no visible marks. So let me demonstrate. As I mentioned, this whole area, you can feel the landmarks, and you can kind of feel where the muscle is supposed to be. And you can insert here, and you can retract and insert fluids up to 10 to 15 milliliters. And then you can take out the pad, clean it, dry it, or replace it, and continue. Same with the I/O function. If you palpate, you can feel the landmark of the humeral bone, which is drillable. So let me demonstrate. You can feel the bone underneath now. And by doing that, you can also add fluids on the I/O port. And all the fluids, both from IV, IM, and the I/O, is escaping the mannequin in the ports under the arm here. So those can be attached to a drain bag where you can collect the fluids. So Just going to mention while we're here, as I said, the zipper, the whole length of the arm. I will open it now so you can see the underlying part for the shoulder pad. So if I take this aside, you can see this foam pad, which is the IM area. So this can be taken out. And under the foam pad, you can see the IO bone. This one can also be taken out. And you can now see the one hole from where I drilled. So if you're going to do this as a vet procedure, you need a new bone each time you're using fluids. Or you can repair the existing bone, which is very easy. It's just one drop of normal super glue, and it's repaired. So you can use the bone multiple times. But it is, of course, important that you don't add fluids into the arm without the proper spare parts. And it's easy to assemble and put the pieces back in its place. So attaching the IO bone, pushing in the foam for the IM pad, like that, and ensuring that the proper connections are on the underside of the silicone skin, and then close the zipper. So while on the subject of penetrating the skin, there's capped and slightly improved the neckband, and obviously under the neckband you have the ability to do tracheostomy as a feature we've had before. Okay. So there's 2 additional new features on the arms that we are very pleased with. So that's the SpO2 function and the non-invasive blood pressure. So it's automated. Again, this feature is on both arms. So I'm going to turn on my clinical monitor. And without any other attachments or any other equipment, you use a standard SpO2 probe, attach on the finger of the mannequin, and you can see there's a small window on each index finger that has a signal that is received by the probe and detected as a normal, like a patient signal. So I will attach the SpO2 probe on the finger, like that. And so you can immediately see that there's a Platt curve appearing on the monitor. And now the SpO2 is measured to 97. So the patient is running in a healthy mode, a start state. So as I mentioned, SpO2 and non-invasive blood pressure. So there's a new functionality on the arm to measure, and you can use automated blood pressure. Just gonna silence this one. You're using a standard clinical BP cuff, but there is one modification to a standard cuff. So this one is included in the accessories of the simulator, and the only difference from a standard clinical cuff is this additional tube. So this tube goes into a port on the inside of the arm of the simulator. Except that tube, everything is run like you would do in any clinical situation. So I'm attaching this tube, and then I'm placing the cuff on the arm. Like this. And as you can see on the LEAP screen now, the vital signs of the patient is set to blood pressure 120/80. So I'll use the clinical monitor to check that this is correct. So I'll run a blood pressure here. So now there's technology in the arm that kind of tells the monitor what the BP is set to. And within LEAP, all these parameters, all the vital signs can be changed and detected by the monitor. So this is it's a big improvement and a neat change compared to the old arms. There will also be a possibility, of course, to interchange the arms. So if needed, if you want to use the drug recognition system, or if you want to do manual blood pressure through Kortokov sounds, it is possible to attach the old arms on SimMan 3G Plus. So you can have both functionalities. So looking at the monitor now, you can see that it has detected the blood pressure of the patient to be 119/83. So that's very close to what the vital signs are set to. So a nice feature there. So let me just remove these ones. And we're going to talk about the new torso skin. So there is a... let me just turn this off. There's a new torso skin on SimMan 3G Plus, but it's still in the same material as before. What's new is the live shock studs. So you can see these two gold discs on the mannequin. Live shock, meaning that you can use any type defibrillator, pads or paddles to deliver a real shock to the patient. So that would be using your normal crash cart and do your simulations with that. ECG can be detected through these pads, so you can do cardioversion and pacing. And by attaching the pads, you can read the rhythm of the patient. So let me just attach pads to demonstrate. I'll switch on my defibrillator. I'll place the pads and making sure that you have good conductivity on the pad itself, like that. So by switching on the AED then, you can see a rhythm on the screen. It will detect the shock. So now Eivind will put the patient into a cardiac arrest. So you'll see a asystole. And when I deliver the shock like this, you can now see in LEAP that the heart frequency or the rhythm is back to normal. So that's how you use that system. And it's nice to have the ability to use a real clinical system. There's also a possibility to downgrade to the standard skin if you prefer to use training equipment to do defibrillation scenarios. So both options are possible. Okay, I'm going to remove this. So LEAP is obviously then in connection with the network, and we have now a new networking solution on SimMan 3G Plus. We have replaced the white router, which previously has been an internal part of SimMan. The router is replaced with a Wi-Fi dongle, and that gives us some additional benefits. It has a more modern architecture, so it adheres to new protocols and a more stable communication. In addition, the white router creates its own ad hoc network, which for some customers has been a security concern. So this one is now removed and, as I mentioned, replaced by the Wi-Fi dongle. The Wi-Fi dongle operates as such that the mannequin becomes an access point, so it will connect to an existing network in your environment, like any other device that you're using. This gives additional benefits so that the mannequin can be online all the time. You can receive updates and you will experience a more stable connectivity to your network. And it doesn't take away the ability and option to continue to use a router solution. So it is possible to purchase a Laerdal router that you can have on the outside of the mannequin and connect the mannequin to this router. And this router can be a stationary router if you are doing in-house simulation, or it can be an operated router if you need to do or want to do simulation outside of your premises or in situ. In totality, a more flexible, more reliable and more modern solution for connectivity. So that concludes the practical demonstration of SimMan 3G Plus, and I'm handing the word over to Björn.
Thank you very much, Carl Ruben. That was a very good and thorough walkthrough of the new SimMan 3G Plus. Now it's time to hand the microphone and camera over to our colleague Danny Billitz in Australia. So Danny, how are you down there?
Thanks, Bjorn. Hi, I'm Danny, and I'm really looking forward to introducing you to our new Laerdal-SonoSim Ultrasound Solution 2.0 product. This new product is actually an extension of our current Laerdal-SonoSim Ultrasound Solution product, but I guess one of the key differences is we've actually introduced new flexibility and also taken the opportunity to introduce a new interface as well. It was developed in partnership with SonoSim, who are recognised world leaders in ultrasound training and education. And what we've done is taken their unique technology, which is the use of real-life ultrasound images, and implemented that into our simulations. So then that way you have the ability to introduce point-of-care ultrasound as a part of your simulation. Okay, so let's have a look at the room setup. So we have a SimMan 3G Plus simulator. He's being connected to and driven by the LEAP software on this particular PC. We have another PC that has the Laerdal-SonoSim Ultrasound Solution 2.0 software loaded on it. Connected to that is the probe. And what we've done, just for the purpose of this particular demonstration, is we've actually mirrored that particular image onto the screen behind me. I appreciate that the image probably won't be that clear during this particular webinar, but what we'll do is when we actually go and actually manipulate the heart rate and respiratory rate, we'll actually take close-ups of the screen so you'll be able to see those. So again, just to explain, I guess, the basics of the Laerdal-SonoSim Ultrasound Solution concept. So underneath the skin, we have tags that are located that actually tell the probe what images to load. So as an example, if we have a look at the patient's right chest, so if I scan the right chest, we'll see that we pick up the right lung that's there, and we can sort of see the sliding. And of course I can go across to the patient's left lung and again acquire the image and see it there. And if we were to take a look at the subcostal, we can just manipulate the image there, and there we can pick up a good view of the actual heart. And of course, with a trauma scenario, because it's based on EFAST, we have the ability to scan the left and right chest, subcostal, suprapubic, and also the left and right upper quadrant. So now let's have a look at how we can actually manipulate both the heart rate and the respiratory rate. So to do that, we actually make the changes on the LEAP PC. So if we come across now onto the LEAP PC, and currently the heart rate is running at 76. So if I click on that numerical value, that will bring up the window that I'll be able to change the heart rate. If I now slide that up to 180, and if we set that to trend over a period of 40 seconds and then select OK, we can see on the interface that we now have that trend running. If I come back with the ultrasound probe and then acquire the image of the heart, what we'll be able to see is actually that heart rate increase up to 180 that's set on leap. So you can see there that the heart rate's getting quite a lot faster now. And then just as an example, just to show, so that was sort of going from 76 to 180. Let's now do another example where we're going to slow the heart rate down. So we'll click on the heart rate. Again, we'll slow it down to around 20 beats per minute. We'll set that again to run over about 40 seconds and then select OK. And then if we acquire the image again of the heart, this time what we'll see is we'll see the image go from a fast heart rate down to the 20 that we have selected. Okay, so now let's just have an example of the respiratory rate. So the respiratory rate obviously we'll see sliding. So now if I acquire the image, we can see we have a respiratory rate set of 20. So now if I go to the leap interface again and I select that numerical value, and let's take that up to around 60, and let's do that again. This time we'll do it over 20 seconds and select OK. Now when we acquire the image, we'll be able to see the lung sliding there go from a rate of 20 up to 60 over the selected period of time. Okay. Now let's take the respiratory rate again. We'll select it, and this time we'll go from the rate of 60 down to around 10. We'll do that again over 20 seconds. We'll select OK. Once again, I'll acquire the image, and we'll be able to see the lung sliding there start to slow down to the rate that we have set over the period of time. You'll notice when you look at the ultrasound screen, as far as the new interface, we still have the normal features that you would expect from an ultrasound machine, where you can control the depth, the gain, Doppler. We have the ability to flip and also freeze the image. We can also review. So one of the unique features about the ultrasound product is it is a training product as well. So we can select review, and we'll actually get an instructor pop up that will actually tell us exactly what we're seeing. So not only can it be used as a product within a simulation, it can also be used to teach about how to actually acquire the image and also what it is that we're actually seeing.
Thank you very much, Danny, for that very insightful information about the new Laerdal-SonoSim Ultrasound Solution. I have a few questions which I may, if you could answer them as good as you can, that would be great. First question is actually, what is the biggest difference between the current Laerdal-SonoSim Ultrasound Solution and the new 2.0 version?
So I guess the biggest differences between LSUS and LSUS 2.0 is really around an enhanced user experience. And I guess that experience, allows you to more closely approximate scanning or use of a real-life ultrasound machine. I think the second part is that ability to create the on-the-fly scenario, so that flexibility, which will probably allow ultrasound to better fit the educational goals of our end users. So that would be the main things. It would certainly be the new interface and also that increased flexibility of being able to control the heart rate and also the respiratory rate.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Danny. I have a question for you here as a follow-up. Beside the new user interface, what do you think the users will find the most useful with this new 2.0 version?
So for the learners, I guess the actual opportunity that it presents is really about introducing point of care ultrasound as a part of their decision making process when we're actually running a simulation. So when they're involved, if it's a trauma patient as an example, they can actually take an EFAST assessment and have a look at the left and right chest and also the heart and the upper and right quadrants, look for blood. And of course that might change or confirm their particular treatment pathway. So I think having real pathology within the actual simulation, so when they actually scan the case they can see it, and of course that flexibility that the operator has to be able to change the heart rate and respiratory rate could certainly make for a dynamic experience for the participant, but also improve patient outcomes as well.
Thank you again, Danny. So what happens with our customers if they choose not to upgrade?
So if a customer decides not to upgrade to the new 2.0, they'll still have exactly the same capabilities that they have today on their current product. The only thing that they won't have is the new interface or that flexibility in regards to being able to control both the heart rate and also respiratory rate.
Thank you very much, Danny, from down under in Australia. Thank you for giving us further insight into other aspects of our patient simulators. We're back now in Stavanger, and I'm here together with Carl Ruben Eriksson, who is our product manager for the SimMan 3G Plus, plus the rest of the SimMan 3G family. We have received some questions while this has been ongoing, and I'd like to ask them to you and see if you could maybe shed some more light into some of the questions that we have received.
Good.
One of
give
them,
it a go.
one of them is actually about something that you mentioned in the end of your presentation, and it's back to the network and network connectivity. Can you say a bit more about the improvements that has been done for that?
Right. So the main improvement and change is obviously that we've removed the built-in router and replaced it with a Wi-Fi dongle. And that makes a big change because instead of creating its own network, the simulator becomes a listening point, an access point to an existing network that would be in the facility. So the SimMan would be just as your phone or any other device that has an access point in it. So SimMan would connect to an enterprise network or the network that you would have in your facility instead of using the router. So there's new technology and a new way to connect. This provides some additional, I would say, benefits because the connectivity is better. It's newer technology. It has a slightly better reach. And we've also catered for using the old functionality or the old type to connect to a router. So you have both options, but the new improvement is the Wi-Fi dongle that connects to an existing network at your facility.
And this dongle, this little USB stick, it comes with a mannequin.
It does. It's already,
so you don't have to find the right place to connect it, and
no, it's already built in the side of the torso of the mannequin, and upon the initial install of the product, either a Laerdal FSE or someone in your facility, a technician, will do the initial install and connect the mannequin to the proper network. And after this initial install, the mannequin should connect automatically to the known network. So kind of taking some of the problems away for the users.
I understand that we still have some customer sites where they have some issues connecting things to their network. Are there ways where customers can use their SimMan 3G Plus without having a dedicated network?
Yes. So that would be the secondary solution, which is a router. So then you need an external router that can be purchased through Laerdal, and we have two types. So that there could be a landline connected router or it could be a battery-operated router. So that would cater for either in-house in a facility, on-premises use, or outside with the battery operated option. So you would have the same possibility as you have today, but the router will be external instead of internal.
So Carl Ruben, there's a question here about the number of phases which are available today. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, so right now we've released the standard phase that would come with the mannequin. So that's the phase that you can see now. And I showed earlier the variations of those. So there's a dark simulator, a light simulator, and the one we have on display now, medium. We're going to continue to release more phases, and in the short term now, in the pipeline, we have the geriatric phase. It's planned to be released in Q1 22. So all the molds are ready, it's looking good, and we're hopeful that this will be a good addition to this product. And down the line, we're planning to continuously release new phases, but this will be in dialogue with customers based on the needs that you have. So we would welcome feedback and input from you guys to help us decide what would be the next phase you need. So right now we have this, let's call it young male. Soon we'll have the geriatric phase released. After that, we'll see what the customer market wants and needs.
So these new phases are specifically made for SimMan 3G Plus. They are not available as such for older models of SimMan 3G.
That is correct. So the phase is not produced as an overlay. This is the actual phase of the mannequin. An overlay would be different because that can't cater for fluid functions and other specifics that we need in the skin. So it's not to replace the face skin of older mannequins, but it's an interchange option for SimMan 3G Plus and forward.
Okay. And does the 3G Plus work with mechanical ventilators directly, or say via the ALS 5000?
Yeah, the ASL 5000 is the, I would say it's the preferred way of doing advanced airway management training, because it provides so many lung parameters, and you can more or less produce any clinically relevant breathing pattern with the ASL 5000. SimMan 3G Plus in its own state, without the addition of ASL 5000, has very minor functions connected to a ventilator. It is possible, and you will get a result, but the product itself is not designed to function properly with a mechanical ventilator. So you do need ASL 5000 if you're going to do advanced ventilation management. We have some settings for obstructions in the airway, so there's some resistance, and there's a couple of settings on compliance, and obviously you can control the respiratory rate. So there's a couple of options to manipulate airway and breathing patterns, but as stated, to do real ventilation management training, you would need ASL 5000.
And then we have a question about IV arms. You showed the IV arms on the left side. Do you also have the options to use the IV arms on the right side, or do they have the IV function on the right side as well?
Yes. And that's my main design point on the two arms now. So they are identical, meaning everything is bilateral. So any function is similar on each arm. So that includes pulses, IV, the SpO2, the BP, and the IO and IM. So everything is the same on the two arms.
There was a question about the BP, the blood pressure cuffs.
Yes.
So I understand it comes with a blood pressure cuff, which
Yes.
looks like a therapeutic, and actually is one as well. But how can you repeat again how this can be used with different types of automatic blood pressure machines?
Yeah. So it's exactly correct what you were saying. This is the BP cuff that comes with the product, and it's clearly marked, not for clinical use. It is a clinical BP cuff or blood pressure cuff, but it's modified. And the modification is this additional tube. So we need to connect this tube to the mannequin in order to read the blood pressure, to be precise. So down this tube, there is a connection port. So from this port to the cuff is kind of interchangeable. And this connection point is where we deliver a big range of connectors. So you could connect this cuff to your clinical device. So by modifying the end of the tube coming from the monitor, you can use any patient monitor. And I say any in brackets because we've tested a selection of monitors, the most used brands. But we would assume that there are brands out there that is not supported. So we're going to continue to develop the algorithms needed to cater for future brands. So this is an ongoing process, and new versions of LEAP will contain more content to cater for additional brands.
But customers who wonder, they can contact our customer service and find out which, if their device will fit here.
Yes, to a certain extent. So it's still early in the development of this new feature. We have a list of monitors that is proven to work, and that is part of the standard. There's no reason to assume that others won't work, but it's not tested. So we might not know the correct answer to any brand, but we're going to kind of continue to investigate that and create necessary software to cater for new brands.
But as we roll in the SimMan Plus out now, these things will become more and more clear.
Oh, absolutely.
And you will expect we will know quite a lot just during this spring.
Sure.
Talking about blood pressure, is it still possible to do manual blood pressure?
So on SimMan 3G Plus, as it is as a standard, no. Because the new arms is created for automated blood pressure measurement. However, there is a possibility to attach let's call it the old arms or the standard arms of SimMan 3G. Those will fit on SimMan 3G Plus. So you can do both the manual blood pressure and also include drug recognition feature as an option.
And even the arm where you can actually penetrate the skin with a needle to insert an IV needle.
Yes, so that's the third arm, which is also attachable to this mannequin.
Can you? There are some questions here about the silicone-based skin, which of course looks very natural and everything else, but as we know, it has some challenges when it comes to attaching tape, etc.
Right.
What have we today to overcome this challenge?
Yeah. So there's pros and cons, obviously, with the silicone skin. The big pros is that it looks and feels more natural, and it allows for the articulation, which is such an important part and feature of this arm. When it comes to the tapeability, if that's even a word, attaching tape to silicone is hard. But as you can see on the simulator here, it's this patch is a silicone patch that attaches good to the silicone skin. And this transparent patch can be on the mannequin at any time, and this patch is tapeable. There is additional patches of this type of tape in the accessories, so you can put that tape on any part of the skin if you want to do specific types of moulage, or you want to attach a wound or something similar. So there's ways to mitigate the loss of friction for tape.
So when you insert an IV needle, for instance, and you use this, you can then safely secure the needle the way you should do it on a real patient.
That's exactly correct. Yeah.
I've got a question here about the skin.
Right.
So parts of the mannequin has a new silicone-based skin. And so there's a question here about how the skin handles staining and moulage. What can you say about that?
Well, good news for those that has a part of their procedure to draw on the arms or in the forehead if you want to mark medications given or stuff like that. So one of the big benefits with the silicone is that it doesn't stain. It doesn't really attract any color. So that's a big difference towards the old type skin, which we have on the torso. So it applies only to the arms and the face. And if I had a pen...
Filthy pen, here you go.
You are well prepared.
Of course.
So I can demonstrate. I have a normal mannequin wipe, and this is it's like it's a heavy marker. I don't know the proper word for that, but
it's a permanent marker at least.
It's a permanent marker.
Yeah.
So I can draw on the silicone skin, and by using a alcohol-based wipe, easily remove traces of any markings. So it doesn't stain at all compared to the old skin where color would migrate into the skin. So it's a big advantage.
But just to make sure that we all get this, you're talking about the face and the arms.
Yes.
Not the torso, not the legs, only those places.
That's correct.
So it will still migrate in and become permanent if you use a pen or anything like it on the torso.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, good to know. Good to know. Last question, which came in, was about anterior-posterior pad placement. Is that possible?
So we've chosen to continue using the standard placement of giving shocks. So currently, SimMan 3G Plus does not allow for anterior and posterior defibrillation. It's only through these plates where you do defibrillation.
So basically, of course, there's nothing preventing customers from placing it wherever they want, but if they want to use the mannequin's functionalities, they need to use these two connectors where you can actually deliver a real shock.
Yes.
And also pick up ECG, heart rhythm information, etc. Okay,
right. Yep.
That's good. Now, there might have been more questions than this, which has been posted on the Q&A field of the on the screen. Sorry, some of them have been answered during this event, and those who have not, that will be followed up later. So I hope that this has answered many of your questions and have inspired you to focus your attention on this new and fantastic tool, the SimMan 3G Plus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.